The modern world, where everything is a click away. From food, love, services, car, almost everything. We have inherited one of the wealthiest societies in history. And yet, by the end of this video, the title will be evident. But let's start with a personal story of mine. On 26th of March 2019, I was in class 12 and I needed notes from a friend. Tring! Hello? Yeah, pick your notes up. Yeah, I'm coming. I end the call. I take my helmet, and although every time I used to ride a two wheeler, I used to wear shoes, but that day I did not. While leaving my home, I told my family that I will be back in 5 minutes and I'm just going nearby. I went downstairs in the lift, I put on my helmet, I start my scooter, and off I went. And then I met with an accident. When the accident occurred, in the exact same moment, me and my scooter, both of us, were in the air for a fair few seconds. It was almost out of a sci fi movie. And when I landed, my scooter landed on top of my right leg. And because of the momentum, both of us were pushed far ahead. I couldn't feel my right leg and I was screaming, but I was unaware that I was screaming. Two strangers dragged me to the side of the road and lay my head on the footpath. I looked at my leg and all I can see was blood and flesh. I started losing consciousness. But a thought sparked in my mind. What if I am never able to play football? This frightened me. Another thought came in my mind. What if they have to cut my leg? It frightened me even more. And I lost consciousness. It was a very peaceful moment of nothingness. I couldn't feel anything. And then came a realization. If I die today, no one really cares. My family might cry for a few months. That's it. A stranger woke me up. He asked me for my dad's number. I told him the number. And I could see the crowd circling me. I lost consciousness again. The very same man put me in an auto and took me to the hospital, which was 1 minute away. My right leg had a tear of dimensions 7 centimeter long, 8 centimeter wide, and 5 centimeter deep. Inside that was a part of my scooter's engine. I had dislocated 3 bones in my leg and I had a hairline crack on this bone. I had surgery the following day and for 3 months I was on strict bed rest. On 31st of March, on my birthday, I was discharged but advised strict bed rest and was also later taken into physiotherapy. I became very weak due to the blood loss and I couldn't study much. So a lot of my hours were spent into scrolling on social media. And I said to myself, if I can study, I will not waste my time scrolling away as well. I will rather do nothing. And I deleted all my social medias, Instagram, Facebook, everything. In the following year, I met some great minds who were very clear thinkers and could think critically. Fast forward 1 year, in October of 2020. My exams were finally over. I came back on social media. And what I saw didn't make sense. It baffled me. Why are people doing this? And why the fuck was I doing this a year ago? And maybe if they are doing this on social media, how would they be in real life? So I called my friends up. I talked to a fair few of them in a very long conversation. And guess what? I was baffled. I was curious. I was perplexed as to what has happened. Or maybe I am overreacting a bit. Or maybe the last year where I wasn't on social media, these people have been programmed in some different way. This question was answered in the following year. and I understood a lot about the direction humanity is headed, hence the title. In this video, I will also go over a lot of neuroscience, anthropology, economic, psychology, and business things as well. But don't worry, these words only sound big. These will be explained to you like you're 5. Let's start with an experiment on a rat. There's a chemical in our brains called dopamine, which is also in the brains of rat. It's the chemical of want and desire. So scientists put one electrode inside the rat's brain, and when the rat pressed a red button, released dopamine into the rat's brain. Soon enough, the only thing the rat was doing was pressing that button. It didn't even eat. Well, in the human world, of course, problems and challenges are bound to come. There's something we can all agree on. And Generation Z, which I'm a part of, is very smart but grew up with constant sources of dopamine in social media, Netflix, porn, junk food, hookups, Tinder, etc. etc. And if we zoom out a bit, Gen Z grew up with this, but the older generations have also seen the effects of this. Today, very few of us can imagine a life without social media, and don't worry, this is not one of those social media bashing videos that social media is bad for you. No, I will go much deeper than that. But we need to lay the foundations first, shall we? The thing is, these social media companies want you to stay on the platform for as long as possible. I have an older friend who works in Facebook. That person has had scientists, behavioral psychologists design the products to be as addictive as possible. So not only does it push negative polarizing content, but also rewires our baseline of dopamine and makes us crave more fake attention through likes and shares, of course. It not only makes us feel sad and outraged, but also feeling empty and equaling our self-worth to the number of likes we get. Depression, self-harm, suicide rates have not just increased by a little bit, but by a huge amount. So whenever we, Gen Z, and even other generations face a real life problem, very few of us face it head on and most of us run away from it. We run back to social media. And since our baseline dopamine is so high, it leaves us even more vulnerable to drug abuse. And you guessed it, artificial dopamine feels good in the short term, but leads to depression, feeling of emptiness, and unfulfilled life in the long term. And on social media, you have a lot of feel-good bullshit which makes you feel entitled. Things like you're okay the way you are. Yeah, I'm nihilistic. I'm not doing anything good with my life. I spend all my days scrolling on social media. I'm literally not even a good social communicator, but I'm okay the way I am. So perfect. Mediocre people with no substance have become narcissists. We all know what's trending on YouTube, what's trending on Instagram, and what's trending on Facebook. And the problem is, media shapes cultures. And guess what? Gets more reach on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Absolute bullshit content, which, if a mass society absorbs it to be true, spells doom for all of us. Now with this comes no long-term thinking. We just want immediate dopamine, even if it means sacrificing our life peace for it. Zero accountability for our actions, and the worst thing of all, no critical thinking. And this no critical thinking bit is done on purpose. Do you know why? So we don't question it. So we don't question all the bullshit that's happening. So we don't raise our voices. So we don't do anything good with our lives. We are just another cog in a wheel. This immediate dopamine also wires our brain to instant gratification. Whatever we want it now. And guess what? This not only makes us feel entitled as to we deserve immediate success, but everything of significance comes in the long term, or delayed gratification, or the opposite of this. This of course leads to more unfulfilled lives. And companies know this, so they market their products as buy this new shiny hype thing and it will make your life complete. But does it? And in this race to get more stuff and play status games hurts us financially and our mental health as well, since we have placed our self-worth into the number of likes we get, and into our possessions. Now, to run away from this, we will, of course, run at the biggest source of pleasure, reproduction, or the act of reproduction. So, we download Tinder on our phones. We swipe right. We get a hookup. When two persons have sex, their brains have a chemical release called oxytocin, which is the chemical of attachment and bonding. This makes sense also, right? When two persons who aren't romantically with each other have sex, the chemical is still released. But because they are probably never going to see each other again, it leads to a feeling of guilt and unhappiness. It leads to a feeling of emptiness. It feels to a terrible feeling. And guess what? Once you break the barrier of having such things, argue me with how it will not impact your ability to build a family.
And this is how I saw it. I saw the US as this beautiful game. And the game was, we're going to create all the possible shit in the world to distract you. There'll be junk food, there'll be porn, there'll be games, there'll be every possible luxury.
And all be big and excessive and cheap and easy to access.
Exactly.
As the American dream.
If you ask for water, you will get ice.
Yeah.
And water will just be incidental. And then they were like, you know what, motherfuckers? We're now going to test who gets out of this shit and makes it for themselves. And that to me was fascinating. I'm like, fuck, man. Yahan survival nahi hai. Yahan ulta hai. It's 180 degrees where they're giving you excess of everything and now looking at who else or who all have it in them to escape this comfort addiction and to make a life for themselves. That fundamentally changed me. Like I attribute a lot of my shift in thinking to my 2 years in the US. Like you asked me, what can Modi do? Send every Indian to the US for 2 years.
Moving on. Families are the building block of society and human race. Guess what? Men's testosterone levels have been consistently declining. Testosterone is a chemical which makes a man a man. And on the converse, women are more victimized, more attention seeking, and more entitled, and have worse mental health because likes equal to self-worth. This definitely leads to a bad family. And when they have a child, the poor thing, it does not know what's wrong and what's right. It does not even know what to learn. In fact, it doesn't even know how to learn. It only absorbs by seeing its immediate surroundings, namely mom and dad. And when it sees a weak man and an entitled woman with mental health problems, what will the child absorb in his or her brain? But what about a career and being financially free? Let me get to that in a bit. Today's education system is pure bullshit, and I do have a documentary coming on why colleges will be obsolete in 10 years. This might feel absurd to you, this might sound absurd to you. You might laugh over it. But trust me, I'll have you convinced in 3 weeks' time. Subscribe so you don't miss out, otherwise we'll see anyways in 10 years, right? Schools kill curiosity. Go to a nursery class and they ask so wonderful questions. And by 12th standard, curious people almost don't exist. And to find fulfilling worth, create wealth, and reduce chances of anxiety, curiosity is a superpower. And I say reduce chances of anxiety because I can go into the neuroscience bit of it, but that will be too deep for this video. If you want to know, comment below, I'll comment at you back. The problem doesn't end here, it's deeper than that. A few decades ago, cigarettes were marketed to be good for health, and many experts and studies verified so. Today, we know the truth. But not only did people get addicted and ruin their family, but my point is something similar is happening today, but not just with social media, with many more things. But why were the people of that time not able to know that cigarettes is good for them? Lack of critical thinking, similar to why we don't know what's today good for us when experts and studies claim shit to be true. So in today's world, critical thinking is getting rarer and it is the only way to live a great, fulfilling life. So how do we solve these problems? Let's get to them one by one.
The best thing you can do is teach people to write. because there's no difference between that and thinking. And one of the things that just blows me away about universities is that no one ever tells students why they should write something. It's like, well, you have to do this assignment. Well, why are you writing? Well, you need the grade. It's like, no, you need to learn to think, because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. Thinking makes you win the battles you undertake, and those could be battles for good things. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way. So that's why you learn to write. It's like, and I can't believe that people aren't just told that. It's like, it's the most powerful weapon you can possibly provide someone with. And I mean, I know lots of people who've been staggeringly successful and watched them throughout my life. I mean, those people, you don't want to have an argument with them. They'll just slash you into pieces. And not in a malevolent way. It's like, if you're going to make your point and they're going to make their point, you better have your points organized, because otherwise you are going to look like and be an absolute idiot. You are not going to get anywhere. And if you can formulate your arguments coherently and make a presentation, if you can speak to people, if you can lay out a proposal, God, people give you money, they give you opportunities, you have influence. That's what you're at university for. And so that's what you do. Is you're in English, right? In languages anyways. It's like, yeah, teach people to be articulate, because that's the most dangerous thing you can possibly be. So, and that's motivating if people know that. It's like, well, why are you learning to write? Because here's your sword, here's your M16, right? Here's your bulletproof vest. Like, you learn how to use them. But it's an endless mystery to me why that isn't made self-evident. So that's the sort of thing that can drive you mad trying to sort out. It's like there's a conspiracy to bring people into the education system to make them weaker. So I guess that keeps the competition down. Maybe that's one way of thinking about it. If your students are stupid, they're not going to challenge you.
Of course, hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life. Whenever faced with any problem or challenge, the best thing we can do is face it and solve it then and there, instead of running away from it into our phones because they gave us high dopamine. Cut out everything which serves no purpose, and if you aren't making money through it, cut out instant dopamine, and especially everything Facebook has control over. And maybe you can use it consciously, but for a couple of weeks, abstain from it to know how deep you are into it. And it doesn't end here. There's more to it. Now, how do you think critically? Thank God, luckily I stumbled upon this. There are a couple of things I will say that induces critical thinking into you. The first thing is to cut out all mainstream content. This is meme pages, there's feel good pages, there's all Instagram models, these are all funny YouTube videos, these are all political Facebook posts. Cut them out. Throw them away. Maybe you might feel withdrawal symptoms. Next, start consuming good content. Set a routine. Read books. What do I mean by good content? I will recommend 2 YouTube channels at the moment, and soon enough you will discover much more than that. These 2 channels are, in fact these are 3 channels, but run by 2 people. One is Prakhar Ke Pravachan, run by Prakhar Gupta, and the other is Gangster Philosopher and the rudest podcast ever, run by Shwetab Gangbar. Every night before you retire to sleep, think over your day. You will have sort of flashbacks of what had happened on that day. Now think over everything from a vantage point of view. What do I mean by that? Think over everything as if the person who underwent these experiences wasn't you, but was someone else. Now it is not entirely possible to remove all your biases, but this will make you think critically that maybe that person, who is by the way you, could have done this better. Maybe this person could have said this. Maybe it's my responsibility. Maybe not my fault, but my responsibility. Maybe it would have been different. And read books. Just start with what you love to read until you love the act of reading. My friend, the fact that you stayed around for the end of this video means you want to change something in your life. Means this video, the problems that I stated before, spoke directly to you. Which is awesome because you actually want to change something in your life. I clap for you. I really do. I really mean it. And I will not leave you on a gloomy, sad note. I thought of leaving all of you on a happy note, but I'll do one better. I will leave all of you on a liberating note. The story that I mentioned in the beginning of this video was my sort of second experience with death. I had one before as well. And it fundamentally changes you. Here's a task I'm giving all of you. Go to a nursing home or an old age home. Don't talk to anyone, don't do anything, just sit there. Just observe those old aged people and think. Once you see the regret in their eyes, it will mess with you. Procrastination will cease to exist, and you will realize the importance of mortality. Now, this might seem dark, but let me come to it. You know, Earth, solar system, galaxy, universe, multiple universes, and if you are into quantum physics, we also have a multiverse, parallel universes. We are only here for 100 years. The universe is millions of years old, if not billions. It will go up until trillions, trillions, trillions of years, even beyond when the earth will cease to exist, when the earth will collapse. To put that into perspective, if all of this was our solar system, we are not even a dot on earth. We are not even that. And yet, we feel entitled. We feel that we deserve shit. We feel that we avoid truth. And the reality is nobody really. It's only your responsibility to live the best life you can. Sure, you might have parents to take care of you. You might have family members who you are sort of very gelled along with. But even they cannot save you. They do serve an external purpose, but internally they cannot do a shit. So rise to this responsibility and live an awesome life. Live a life that when you are at a deathbed at 90, you will look back and say, I couldn't have done it better. That's for this video. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.